Problem 10-30, categorize assets, cost, depreciation. Airport parking near an airport incurred the following costs to acquire land: make land improvements and construct and furnish a small building. So we can view the financial data here in a second. Airport parking depreciates land improvements over 20 years, buildings over 40 years, and furniture over 10 years, all on a straight line basis with zero residual value. So requirement 1, columns for land, land improvements, building, and furniture have been set up. Show how to account for each cost by listing the costs under the correct account. Determine the total cost of each asset. Begin by listing each cost for items A through I first, followed by items J through Q. Then determine the total cost of each asset. If an input field is not used in the table, leave the field empty. Do not enter a zero. So we have our data table here we'll be using, so let's go ahead and open that up. So first off, let's take a look at these assets here. Are these things all going to be depreciated? Well, let's have a look-see here. So furniture will wear out over time. Buildings wear out over time. Land improvements such as fencing and signs, those will not last forever, so we have to depreciate those. And then land will last forever, however, so that one we do not depreciate. And again, recall those are all depreciated, the land improvements, building, and furniture over different time periods here. So we're going to have to keep track of them separately. So we're going to go ahead and go through these one by one and figure out how to categorize the cost. So A, we purchased 3 acres of land for $80,000. So we're going to take that $80,000 and copy and paste or type it in here under A. And that's pretty cheap land. This is $80,000 for 3 acres of land. So not very realistic, obviously. And so that's the cost of land, and we've placed it in the column under land on A. So next we have B, delinquent real estate taxes on the land to be paid by airport parking. So that is $5,600. And that $5,600 is part of the cost to get the land ready to use. So then we have to count it as part of the land account. So I'm going to go ahead and include that $5,600 here for B. And next we have C, additional dirt and earth moving for $9,000. So is that part of the land or the building? Well, this is land. And that goes under C again because it's part of the cost to get the land ready for the building. And then next we have title insurance on the land acquisition. That is $3,200. Will also be included in the cost of getting the land prepared for the building and part of acquiring it. And now we have E, fence around the boundary of the property for $9,100. So will this fence last forever? No, so this is a land improvement. So I'm going to go ahead and take that $9,100 and put it under land improvement for E, since that will be a depreciating asset. And then we have F, building permit for the building for $500. And what is that part of? That is part of building because it is part of the cost of getting the building ready. So that goes under F, under building. And next we have G, architect's fee for the design of the building for $20,700. Again, part of the cost of the building. And next we have H, signs near the front of the property for $9,000. So that is going to be a land improvement. And then I, we have materials used to construct the building for $215,000. Obviously that is the cost of the building. We'll go ahead and input that. Now let's make sure we got those rows correct. So let's take a peek. Good job. Now moving on to J, labor to construct the building. So that is $173,000. And that, where does that belong? is going to go under building because it is part of the cost to make the building here. So let's have a look. That is that 173,000. And next we have K, interest costs on construction loan for the building for 9,500. Well, we needed this loan in order to construct the building, so then it has to be capitalized and depreciated over the life of the building. So again, that's going to be part of the building cost for 9,500. And then after that, we have L, parking lots on the property. So will these parking lots last forever? No. So they eventually will need to be repaved, etc. So they will wear out and we have to depreciate them. So that is a land improvement. Those parking lots will go under land improvement, which is this column here, the second one, for 29,000. Next up we have M, lights for the parking lots for 11,300. So will those lights last forever? No, they'll eventually need to be replaced. So that is 11,300 under land improvements, that second column here for M. And now moving on to N, salary of construction supervisor, 80% to building, 20% to parking lot and concrete walks for $80,000. So 80% of 80,000 is 64,000, so that's going to go towards the building. So we have to split up the cost here between the two. So 64,000 here, and then 16,000 left over goes to land improvements because that's the other 20% of the salary that we need to split up. And then after that we have furniture. And that belongs under the furniture column, the last column here for O. So that's 11,600. And the transportation of that furniture also belongs in that same column here for P. So I'll make sure that goes there. That is pretty expensive for transportation, but we have to capitalize it by putting it in the furniture account. And Q, lastly, we have additional fencing for 6,300, and that belongs under the land improvements here because it will end up being depreciated. Let's go ahead and check our answer. Good job. Okay. All right, so moving on, we have to get the totals for each of these columns. So we can go ahead and, in the interest of time, I'm just going to add them in here. So land is A through D here. We'll add those through for a total of 97,800. Then we have our land improvements. So I'll add those together here for a total of 80,700. And then we have our building. If we add those costs up there, that is 482,700. And then our furniture for 13,800. And let's check our answer now. Fantastic. Okay. So now we're moving on to requirement 2. All construction was complete and the assets were placed in service on July 1st. Record partial year depreciation expense for the year ended December 31st, round to the nearest dollar. Record a single compound journal entry, round all depreciation expense amounts to the nearest whole dollar. Record debits first, then credits. Select the explanation on the last line of the journal entry table. So how many months are these assets being used if they're placed in service July 1st? So that's going to be a full complete July, August, September, October, November, December. That is 6 months. So now we're going to record depreciation, and remember it's straight line depreciation with 0 residual value. So what's the formula in words for straight line depreciation? I've got it handy right here. We have cost minus residual value divided by useful life times the number of months divided by 12. So we're going to go ahead and do land improvements first, and we are skipping land because, again, we do not depreciate land because it will last forever. So for land improvements, we have a total of 80,700 for the cost. So let's go ahead and get our calculator open here. So 80,700, and then we're going to go ahead and subtract 0 for residual value, and then we're going to divide by the useful life, which is 20 years. But then that's not our ending step. We have to also divide this by 12 to get the number of months and multiply that number by 6 because, again, it's been 6 months out of that year. So that total is 2017 and 50 cents. However, we have to round to the nearest dollar, so we're going to go ahead and put in depreciation expense for land improvements, not land. And that's going to be a debit of 2018. Since again, we are rounding to the nearest whole dollar. Okay, let's clear out our calculator and move on next to building. Total building cost was $482,700. And we're going to go ahead and subtract out 0, so don't need to do anything for that. But then we have a different useful life for the building. It's 40 years, so we're going to go ahead and divide that cost by 40. And that's annual depreciation. However, we're doing it for half a year. So let's go ahead and divide this by 12 to get what the amount is per month, and multiply that number by 6 to get, again, half a year of depreciation for the building, and that is $6,033 and 75 cents. However, again, we need to round this up. So that's going to be a total of $6,034 rounded up. And go ahead and clear our calculator here, and we can move on to the furniture since we are depreciating the furniture here next. So that cost is $13,800. And then we're going to go ahead and check that useful life. It's going to be over 10 years that we are depreciating this. So let's go ahead and divide that number by 10. So that's the annual depreciation. And then we'll divide this by 12 to get the monthly amount and multiply by 6 to get, again, half a year's worth of depreciation for $690. So let's go ahead and input $690. And it looks like we forgot our account here, so let's quickly get that in. The last one was the building that we're depreciating. That's the depreciation expense for that. And we just did the depreciation expense for furniture. And then we have to add in credits. So those are the accumulated depreciation accounts. So let's get those going. So first we'll start in order. So we'll go ahead and get accumulated depreciation for land. We'll match the debit to the credit here, so that's 2018. Accumulated depreciation for building was 6,034. Depreciation expense for furniture was last, so we're going to go ahead and input that here. The accumulated depreciation for furniture, that amount is 690 to balance the transaction there. And then finally, we need an explanation, and that is to record depreciation on assets. We'll go ahead and check our answer. Good job.